All right, let's see if this has gone live like it is supposed to. I'm hoping it will, so that way we can let people know that we're going. Is this broadcasting
Well,
to?
since it is far too early to start swearing, I'm just gonna say, Ayrton, you're a jerk.
What?
I heard
I
it.
mean,
I heard you're stealing bird. I heard you're stealing bird, Ayrton.
Listen, we're doing
Hold
some
up.
sketchy ghetto shit to stream right now. Yes, we are live.
We are live? Because I was trying to
Uh,
get the link and it wasn't coming up right away. Aha.
Yeah, it still says the Gospel of Comics Happy Turkey Weekend. So you input the stream information in the back end of YouTube wrong, but that's okay. It'll just confuse people.
I mean, look, is there ever a time not to have turkey?
Yeah, at any time. Turkey's terrible.
Turkey is not terrible. Turkey is
Yes, it
amazing.
is.
Okay, this is one of those things where because I have learned this is a thing, it is probably a matter, Ayrton, you have just had terribly prepared turkey.
I mean,
many foods you don't like are actually good if they're prepared correctly. If they're prepared for ass, they are the worst thing ever.
I mean, yeah, if you cook something with enough butter and salt, it's going to taste good. But
don't forget, you could also deep fat fry it.
Well, I mentioned this because there's that presumption that people have. It's like, well, it's Thanksgiving, we got to do a turkey, and then it's like you make a turkey once a year. You have no idea how to make it. You just throw fire at it and hope it's good. It's like, no, people are bad at turkey. They're bad at a lot of things, and they won't stop trying.
But as far as birds go that we eat, turkey is the worst one.
I mean, here's the thing. If turkey is bad, why is chicken good? Or are you also anti-chicken? Do you just not like fowl?
No, I only like chicken thighs or legs. The rest of the chicken sucks.
See, I am of a similar bent. I like breast and I like thigh. I am not into leg, even though the bone is a very useful handhold. And I don't like any fucking thing else. Like, don't wing me.
No,
okay.
But duck though, as far as like fowl goes, duck is the best. Duck's fantastic.
Hold up. Here's the fun part. On Twitter, it came over correctly. That's weird.
Okay.
All right, whatever. Again, we are streaming with a very ghetto setup, hence the opening with the ceiling bird.
Right. Welcome to the Gospel of Fowl.
I'm also putting out an additional tweet because it's also on the Twitter.
We're streaming on Twitter too?
Yes, we are streaming live on Twitter.
God damn. We are fancy as shit up in here. We should probably do an actual intro, shouldn't we?
I mean, we'll do that later because I have an emergency. I have another medium to use once we are done with StreamYards that's being extremely uncool and wanting to charge you $80 a month to use their platform.
And like doing weird shit in their back end studio as well.
Yeah. So we all saw Superman. And we figured we could talk a whole lot about Superman.
Before we get into it, I actually want to mention this is the second week in as many weeks that we have all actually done the homework. How weird is that?
Yeah. And
except last week, I forgot to finish Ironheart last week.
Nothing of value was missed.
Yeah. And the other fun part about this is that we can go back to our non-bootleg version of StreamYards next week because our StreamYards clock will be reset by then.
Oh, all right.
Stream boot.
Our stream boot will be unbooted, as it were. So let's talk first about the Ben Shapiro review of Superman.
Okay, so I didn't watch it. Do you owe me $20? Was I right? Was that basically what his review was?
What did you say? Because I wasn't there for that conversation.
I put it on Twitter. Hold on, let me pull it up.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly what I said. 1 moment. Gotta find it in all of my other nonsense.
I mean, we say so much nonsense. We ramble so much.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. When was that? When were you tweeting about that, Larry?
I don't remember. But the gist of the thing was Ben Shapiro has embraced the consensus that this movie is very meh.
Found it. All right.
Although he's going to say a lot of things that you're going to probably hear from us about the movie.
So let's say I said $20 says I already know what he's going to say. Insert ad read. Blah 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 for kids. Finds the smallest quote woke details and insert ad read.
He actually
completely doesn't understand Superman outside of a Xiaomi mystic pop culture view. Insert ad read. Culture war. Stumping. Subscribe.
So
good news.
It's the best kind of weird. He both doesn't do what you say, and you are correct. So both things are true.
So I get $10 then?
No, you get an attaboy and a hope.
Well, because I was half right. I bet $20, so half of 20 is 10.
Well, look, that just means Mrs. Ayrton can give you half a hand job.
Yeah, I'll take it.
That sounds vaguely uncomfortable.
Listen, anytime I get a hand job, it's only half a hand job.
So Ben Shapiro didn't say it was woke, but what he did focus on was how truth, justice, and all of that has been hamstringing Superman. Because Superman is about America.
Well, that's okay. I'm not saying
wait. So being for truth and justice is somehow hamstringing you?
No.
If you're about America?
No.
Is that okay?
No. What he's saying, okay, because there's an interesting and then there's a dumb, and we have to actually address the interesting. The first thing is he actually goes out of his way to say, no, the people that are saying that it's about Palestine, the people that are saying that it's about Ukraine, the people that are saying it's about immigration, the people that are calling it any of the woke things that it was accused of by a bunch of talking heads are full of shit. It's none of those things. Which is correct. It is none of those things. And
the boys over at Midnight's Edge are claiming that this is all part of the Hollywood media attempting to sabotage the movie to fuck over David Zaslav.
I mean, that's a different argument. I don't know anything about that. That's a dig. But then the stupid thing that he says is that because Hollywood is unwilling to say that Superman represents truth, justice, and the American way, they're hamstringing Superman. Like, that's the Cohen. That's the secret code that makes Superman work. Which it's not, and it doesn't, and he's a fucking normie, and he should shut the fuck up. Because his chest beating for America is retarded. Okay, now I'll grant you that various Hollywood outlets not being willing to just let Superman be Superman is a problem. Okay? Yeah. But that's not because he doesn't say the American way. It's not like America is the secret sauce. Although we have 79 flavors, it's that they won't just let Superman, a good person, do good things for good people because it's the right thing to do.
Because
right? So they keep trying to artificially make him other things. He's a messiah dialogue. No, he's not. Never was. Shut the fuck up.
Well, I mean, that's what people who don't want to represent the concept of moral, exceptional people.
Right.
As in America implicitly, the narrative of what we did in the 1930s and 40s, blah,
right.
blah, blah. That's
I was going to say, the quote American way thing comes from World War II.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but that whole angle, that's not a terrible part about this, but that's the only thing remotely interesting Ben said in the whole thing.
Yeah, everything else is mush. As I said, I can actually describe his, because I did not like him as a person previously, but I had never sat down and just absorbed some of his conversation talking points. Now I have. He speaks in mush. It's oatmeal.
By the way, quick aside, if you guys want an accurate representation of his video while we're discussing it, change us to 1.25 speed for the remainder of this part of the discussion.
Please Are you saying that he artificially speeds himself up to sound smarter?
No, I'm saying he just talks way too fast and needs
to too fast.
Stop snorting Adderall before he goes on air.
Way too fast. Now then, let me just put over here. Check over here. All right, but yeah, But let's just now that we did that little appetizer of Ben Shapiro, let's sort of open up and talk about our feelings about this movie. I'm gonna say we start with Ayrton.
Well, do we want to kind of go through like a quick summary of the movie first?
Well, that's part of the problem. It's the summary of the movie is part of the problem.
Yeah.
So there's this whole analogy, metaphor, yada yada, that it's like punk rock, right? You know, love and hope are the most punk rock things ever. This whole movie, its narrative structure and flow is punk rock, but not the good kind of punk rock. Somebody told me that this movie is kind of a pop punk song.
If we go by this retarded logic you have presented, might not be your logic, Campbell, but it is retarded. I hate the appellation of punk rock to anything that is a little offbeat as a guideline. Then it's solidly in the realm of Sex Pistols. Everyone knows it, everybody's heard it, and it's complete garbage, but it's the only garbage anyone's ever heard.
No, I don't say this is Sex Pistols. This is pop punk. This is like the poppy candy coated punk.
So this is the people that want to be the Sex Pistols but don't want to be as dangerous as the Sex Pistols.
Exactly.
Hey, the pop punk scene in the early to mid 2000s was a blast. All right, you can both go fuck yourselves.
Right, but we're talking about pop punk now, sir.
Oh, I was thinking like back in, I didn't know there was still pop punk around. My bad.
No, that's just it. Punk is dead, and it has been corporatized, and Larry is saying that there are people saying that it's pop punk trying to attribute its positives, when it is in fact corporate pop punk. It is hollow and empty.
Well, my take on the whole punk music analogy for this movie is this is like a high school band who listened to Green Day and a couple of sellout corporate punk albums. And they never played the instrument before, but they got $200 to play at a friend's house party. They did a lot of weed. and that's sort of the metaphor I have for the narrative structure of this movie. So first of all, this movie opens up with a text narration wall, which is a problem for me in this movie. It says 300 years ago, metahumans appeared. No, 300 years ago, the first metahumans appeared. 30 years ago, blah, blah, blah. And then 3 years ago, Superman appeared. And then 3 weeks ago, Superman stopped a war. And 3 minutes ago, he fought a bad guy, and he's laying in the middle of the Antarctic, all beaten up and bloody. So this text wall, it doesn't benefit anything, doesn't benefit anyone's understanding of the movie. Like, for example, there's a scene later in the movie that we're going to talk about where they could have said, hey, Superman stopped this war. You don't need to have a text wall explaining it. You have a bad guy, given a bad guy monologue. The bad guy with the bad guy monologue could have explained it.
They literally do explain it when Lois is interviewing Superman.
Right, but I mean, you want to explain something like that early in the film. You need to set it early.
Yeah, but I'm just saying they did do that. They just could have put it a bit earlier in a different way.
In a different way, yes. So this section, I'm pretty sure, was something the studio told people they needed to add to make the movie less confusing, but it's just a waste of time. Which is something that this movie has happened all the time in it. And then we see the scene with the doggo and Superman. And the doggo dragging Superman to the Fortress of Solitude.
A scene which I want to point out in the commercial looks like ass, but in the actual scene is not so bad.
It's fine.
I don't like Crypto the Super Dog, but I appreciate that it is well used when it appears.
Yeah, I kind of like that part. I thought it was, if you get rid of the text wall shit, if you just cold opened with that would have been a good kind of
cold open.
Yeah, that would have been a good cold open that kind of like sets the tone of the movie like right off the gate.
Yeah. Now, the super dog drags him to the Fortress of Solitude to get healed by the super robots. And James Gunn was choosing, in my opinion, the right aesthetics for this movie to make it distinct from all the other Superman movies. He wanted to go with all the weird shit in Superman.
Yeah.
My one question for this is, totally should have done the arrow key lock thing. Totally should have done that. I know it's dumb as hell, but I think what they did for the entrance to the Fortress of Solitude in this movie just was It really isn't really significant. It really isn't powerful enough. Superman comes in with the super robots. The super robots give him healing sunlight, and they play the words of Laura and Jor-El, which we are going to talk about in more detail later. Believe that. And then Superman flies off to go fight the bad guy again. And another bad guy tries to break into the Fortress of Solitude. But Lex Luthor tells her not to. And Lex Luthor has a goddamn NASA control tower full of people helping him in his evil scheme against Superman. And all of this, it's like 20 minutes of the movie. Like 20 minutes of the movie is all of that dense shit. Then Superman goes back to fight the bad guy again. Bad guy punts him into the ground. And the local people of Metropolis are like, bro, you shouldn't fight him again. And Superman wants to, but they're like saying, no, bro, you've done enough. Just stand down. And then we go into the sequence where we're first introduced to the Daily Planet. We've not even hit the half-an-hour mark, and a whole lot of shit has happened in this movie. Like, a whole lot of world building is just vomited at us in a high projectile stream. It goes to the Daily Planet.
In a delicious kryptonite green color.
Yes. Now, as they go forward, you see the Daily Planet. You're introduced to a whole lot of people. There's Perry White. The actor who plays Perry White does a good job being generic Perry White, who's a black guy. And he's there because they don't want to pay the extra money to get it was Lawrence Fishburne in the Snyderverse. They want a discount Lawrence Fishburne kind of actor. So that's fine. That's fine. You're doing that. And we have Jimmy Olsen. They bring the ginger back for Jimmy Olsen. I appreciate that. And
that was nice.
And they introduce a character trait for Jimmy Olsen that Jimmy Olsen's a chick magnet. And I just go, yeah, that makes sense. It just makes sense. I don't know why that whole thing makes sense. And then it later becomes plot relevant, and it's annoying and stupid. But it also makes sense. Then we have the scene where Clark and Lois are having their little lovey-dovey discussion in Lois's apartment.
Okay, wait a minute. My headset was fucking around. Let me just comment. You say that it's dumb, and I will grant that it was presented as dumb. There was every reason for me to want to hate how they utilize Jimmy Olsen chick magnet. However, I want to be very clear. When they do the reveal that it's actually plot significant and not just a bad joke, I was low-key impressed.
No.
I agree with you, but it was, and I agree with Larry too. It was very weird and silly, but at the same time, I think we had this argument last week about comic book movies. It felt comic booky.
No, it did.
It felt cheesy enough to be an old comic book, so I was okay with it.
The thing is, everything up to that moment has pre-built you to go like, oh, this is going to be a dumb joke. Oh, this is going to be stupid. Yeah, that's exactly what it looks like. And then when Lois is like, but wait, let us reconsider this information, it's like, oh, wait, this stupid character is smarter than we could. Okay. All right, I'm down with this. That is a twist worthy of a DC, which we'll get to later.
Yeah, but the little argument sequence in Lois's apartment, I loved everything about that sequence. That was really good.
He did it, both of them did a very, very good job in that scene.
And also, she is realistically the best actress to ever play Lois Lane.
All right, let me cut in here not just to talk about the scene, but to get my thoughts out on the film, because I think it's going to be pertinent for our future conversation as we walk through the rest of the film. Is it a good movie? Nah, it's pretty meh. But I think people are judging it incorrectly relative to its material. And we're going to get into the various bits and bobs as we go. Because I hate to tell people, they either don't read DC Comics, or they only are familiar with very specific versions of Superman over time and across situations. I'm sorry to tell people, even if you're a DC fan, DC characters are already kind of two-dimensional. They're a little flat. Yeah. Okay, they're not modern gods. It's not postmodern mythology. It's flat. Okay.
I mean, I would argue some of the characterization from a script standpoint was less than two-dimensional, but that's not important right now.
But the reason I bring it up, okay, is Lois Lane and Clark Kent were always low-key frenemies.
But then they got into a romance. It's the will they won't they.
Right. Then they got into the romance, but they always still had
the rivalry.
Arguments and rivalry. And part of it was because they respect each other's intelligence as characters. She's very good and smart. He's very good and smart. Together, they dovetail off of each other nicely, even when they're at odds with each other. Right?
And I really liked her going at him for the fact that what he was doing was a violation of journalistic ethics.
Right. Even though she does agree with him, but you can tell at what point in that conversation it stops being about the ethos of what they're talking about and more about winning an argument. Right?
Yeah.
The reason I bring it up, though, okay, is many of the things that people are mocking, like Superman saving a squirrel, and Superman's motivation being people were going to die and I couldn't let that happen.
Well, we're gonna get more into detail on that when we
are getting into that. But I just want to say, all of those things are Superman. Superman does that shit. It's not.
Yeah, he does save squirrels.
Well, no.
I thought that was great, but I want to go back to the
more fully.
Yeah, I want to go back. There's something about that like argument scene that I noticed. I don't know.
The part about Brenner was great.
That was good, right. But what I liked about it is the way that scene was actually shot and composed.
Yeah,
like you can feel like it feels claustrophobic almost and like uncomfortable, and like it's like it feels tight. Like that entire scene.
Well, you're a fly on the wall watching two people in a relationship have an argument. Yeah, you should be uncomfortable.
Yeah, like watching it, you're kind of like, should I be watching this?
Should I leave?
but with the eyeball scene,
I gotta pee.
Yeah, but with the eyeball scene, which gets featured later, that whole same apartment feels more wide open. It's good.
Right.
The shot work is good.
Right. The only reason I bring all of this up is that if we're going to talk about specific points of contention and flaws and whatnot, but in the overall, I'm going to posit the argument that it's not because it is badly done, not because it is a bad movie, although it's a meh movie, but because your average Superman story, okay, the average on a long enough timeline of a Superman story is kind of meh.
Well, we're gonna get into that. I disagree in the summary, but it may not be a disagreement in how we get there.
In the particulars, yeah.
So Lex then goes to the government and says, "Hey, I got my LexCorp branded, Luthor Corps, and I understand why he's doing it that way, even though LexCorp does sound cooler. Like I got my Luthor Corps, super soldier suits." And my Luthor Corps, Superhuman the Engineer, which it's weird to me that you have the Engineer without the rest of the Authority.
More importantly, I find it weird that they presented the Engineer as a villainess when the Engineer was a good guy and one of the better parts of the Authority.
Well, I mean, the Authority were villains, even on the normal continuum of superheroes. But But we'll get more to that when we get to
I'm just saying, of the authority of the various characters in it, the engineer was more of an idealist and a better person than, I don't know, say Midnighter.
Yeah.
What about Dog Welder? Was he part of that?
He was not.
Oh, okay.
He was not. Then they have all sorts of back and forth about the not Russia country and Superman, and he's angry about it. And then we lead into Lex going to break into the Fortress of Solitude, which is stupid because of things that we'll get into more detail, but Lex just breaks into the Fortress of Solitude. And I knew as soon as he broke in how he was breaking in. I knew it. It was obvious how he broke in.
Because they didn't use that giant key, which would have been more interesting.
Right. He fights the Superman robots. They get tore up. But he's able to do all of this because he puts a kaiju in Metropolis. So I'm gonna that's one of the things that annoys me that we're gonna get into when we get into the more full autopsy here. But he has a kaiju in Metropolis, and Superman's fighting the kaiju. And that's where we're introduced to the Justice Gang. I love Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner. His performance is great.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing.
I found their Hawk Girl kind of lackluster, but whatever.
But she wasn't given a lot.
Yeah. She was just kind of there.
And this was the first time in any form of media, comics or animated, that I actually enjoyed the presence of Mr. Terrific, because he didn't feel like, I'm the super smart black guy who everybody likes because he's black. And I appreciate.
Wait a minute. Are you saying Mr. Terrific? Are you saying Mr. Terrific was black?
Yes.
Holy shit! You're Mexican?
I didn't notice.
And Superman's like, "Hey guys, can we not kill the kaiju?" And they're like, "Yeah, whatever, kid." And then they kill the kaiju. Now that is a seed of an idea that could have been better executed if the movie had any time to execute any of its ideas. But it doesn't.
Right.
Which is another overarching problem. They pack. It's a little overstuffed. Like, when you go to Chipotle, and you're just like adding shit into your burrito, and by the time they get to the end of the line, they can't really close it, and you can't actually eat the burrito.
But you eat the burrito anyway, and then more stuff comes out of your colon that was put into the burrito.
Exactly. That's kind of, I would say, a good summary for this movie.
By the way, if you guys haven't had it, I tried that McDonald's Crunch Wrap thing that they got that's back. It's actually quite good.
Huh.
Yeah. So Superman, once he fights the kaiju, he realizes the kaiju was all a distraction to keep him away from the Fortress of Solitude.
Surprising no one.
But Lex also drops the secret tape of Laura Jor being son. Have sex with all of the Earth women. Impregnate them. Found a new race of Kryptonian hybrids to rule the world.
I really hated that part.
I hate that part because it's stupid. It doesn't add anything to the movie. It creates a fake conflict that dissolves.
No, that is not the problem. You are both correct and wrong. The reason it's dumb, the reason we hate it, and the reason it doesn't add anything is because they gave us the out, they didn't use the out, and they never follow up on the out that is in front of everyone who's paying attention. Okay? Which is that it is fake.
Well, they expressly say it's not fake. Repeatedly.
Right, which is bullshit.
But we'll get into that. We'll get into that more detail later.
Let's have it now, because I want to be very specific.
That's actually true. That was another thing that I thought was dumb about that. Well, when they say that the data and video is analyzed by top. It's alien tech. What do you mean your top scientist said it was real? How do you know?
Hold up. Ayrton, let's phrase this whole thing in the way that the movie is selling it to you.
Okay.
Somehow, Lex is able to analyze an alien computer software with his henchman who's full of nanites. So somehow her nanites are able to interact with Kryptonian technology.
Yep.
Yeah.
And somehow her nanites are able to understand Kryptonian software, which is different than our software, unless it's like that weird thing like from Independence Day where the aliens use Macs for their computers. I don't know. That would be weird.
And they can translate Kryptonian.
Yeah, and somehow they can translate Kryptonian, and then once Lex is able to restore the software, the alien software that he can somehow figure out how to restore, and then he can somehow get it to computer scientists, and within a day, because that's what is implied the way the movie's shot, it's later that day, all the top scientists and top linguists are like, bro, this is totally Kryptonian. So, like...
Oh, I forgot they consulted linguists, too.
Yeah, so that's stupid. That's very, very stupid.
But here's where it falls apart. This is the actual problem. This is what I wanted to get at. Okay? So the engineer hacks Superman's computer.
Somehow.
And you say somehow. I know it's because she used nanites. She used nanites to make nanites that made specialist nanites that could interact with Kryptonian shit. That doesn't matter.
A wizard did it.
Right, a wizard did it. She downloads the stuff. Okay? And then it's like, all right, so Lex Luthor brought this to the government. He brought it to the government. He gave it to scientists. Whose scientists? Your natural inclination would be saying government scientists, government linguists. No, not the government's linguists and the government scientists. You know who he used. He used his scientists and his linguists, if he even did. Because the fact of the matter is that the government relied on Lex Luthor to do their problem solving for them.
Well, no.
Which
no,
means
no,
that No, Larry.
Mr. Triffick said he knew all those guys and they would never lie.
Bullshit! Bullshit! You tell me that Lex Luthor, evil genius, master manipulator, who has literal data stores across the country of planetary blackmail, does not have dirt on these select scientists, motherfuckers, who just happen to get this information that Lex Luthor just happens to get, that just happens to point out that Superman's parents are evil. Bullshit!
But here's my bigger problem with all of that. They're ripping off Invincible.
They are, but I want to get to the actual core of the problem, which has nothing to do with the fact that it's a cheap ripoff of Invincible. Okay? When we're talking about bad writing, we're talking about bad ideas, and we're talking about how they had the opportunity to do it right, and then they chose to do it wrong, right? The obvious smart play, having introduced this horrific thing, right? Where everyone is writing off Superman, is that when you out Lex Luthor as a villain at the end, which everyone should have fucking known, right? You reveal the fakery. You say it was fake. Your faith, Superman, as a good person has been verified. For your parents were actually pretty okay.
Or like because Mr. Terrific became like kind of a pseudo sidekick at the end of the movie.
Right.
You have in that part when Lex and Superman are going back and forth and he's doing his villain monologue thing. You have like Clark use like his journalist skills of questioning to get him to admit that he had faked the video, and then you show just show a quick shot of one of the T-spheres in the background recording and broadcasting it everywhere.
Especially because you just spent 2 hours of film trying to show us how jealous Lex Luthor is. And that was his motivation, was his jealousy. You're telling me he's not so jealous that he would not 100% take real footage, doctor it with fake footage and a false translation to further humiliate his foe? He absolutely would. He absolutely did.
Yeah, and you 100% have the perfect setup to make that happen and make it not stupid.
The reason they didn't is threefold, and Larry has touched on one of them. They're ripping off Invincible. Okay? The other thing is that they wanted to actually put some dirt on Superman to make out that Superman is the good guy, but the world he comes from is bad. Why do we know this? Because we've seen this in several comic instances. They keep trying to set out that Kryptonians are actually freakish-looking monsters, or the Kryptonian society was evil, and all this other bullshit that isn't real.
Don't
Okay?
forget Jor-El kidnapped John Kent for a while. And
Right. All of this shit that they're adding on to make more complicated lore that doesn't have to be. Right? But then the other one, and this is the big one, is that they wanted to make something skeevy. They wanted to make an intimation of why we should view Superman as a threat, right?
Well-
because his super sperm is going to make super women out of everyone. He's going to replace us. It's the replacement theory. It's like, no, this was never gonna happen. Ever.
Also-
It is lazy and it is stupid. It is designed to generate artificial drama, and it's a bad drama at that. And the fact of the matter is, I know you say you like Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner. He does halfway decent with the material, but the fact of the matter is, no one in that room should have believed that. Not Hawk Girl, not Mr. Terrific, not Guy Gardner. And not because Superman is a good guy and believable, but because Lex Luthor has a credibility problem called being Lex fucking Luthor.
even one of Lex Luthor's own henchmen is like, bro, that was a super good fake. And he's like, nah, man, it really is real.
And by the way, the reason for all of this government idiocy is because the Suicide Squad movies are trash, and they didn't want to admit that this was all Amanda Waller's idea.
But this was also part of a broader theme about social media, which we will get to later in the film.
Right,
So
that was
Superman,
right.
Superman then goes to the Fortress of Solitude, sees Lex Luthor wrecked his shit. Then he goes to Lex, like, where's my goddamn dog? And
Which, again, real quick, I want to point out, a lot of people are hating on this scene, and I understand why Superman being out of control is not a good look. But the fact of the matter is, I get it. I get it. I can understand.
I actually like that. He's like, if you like, he was raised as a farm boy from Kansas. Of course,
Right.
he's gonna care about a dog like that.
well, we're gonna get more into that a little bit
I
later.
just want to say one facet of this extended conversation is the conflation that because Superman is a moral exemplar, right, that he is not without foibles. A lot of people were like, well, he's making too many jokes. Superman's always been kind of humorous, right?
Mhm.
Well, he's too angry. It's like no one said Superman was an emotionless robot, right?
Well,
Yeah.
well,
And it's
I
like,
mean-
yeah, no.
Well-
Lex Luthor stole his dog. Yeah, he kicked in the door. It's like, where's my fucking dog?
so
Yeah,
here's
and I'll be fair. I feel like it was a bit of a nod to like the popularity of John Wick, but I'm okay with that.
well, no.
Well,
No,
also,
no.
I would throw out things like there are Justice League episodes and there are other Superman material where he literally storms into Lex Luthor's office and goes, "What the fuck are you doing?" It's happened before.
But let me
there's
Yeah,
that episode.
Let's let Larry say what he's trying to say. We keep
Okay,
rambling
yeah,
over.
sorry.
So there's a pivot, right? You remember way back when they let Max Landis write a mini series for Superman, and Superman
Yeah.
had his first confrontation with Lex Luthor, and he like crashed into Lex Luthor's office with the parasite, and he's going to get Lex Luthor because he made the parasite. Lex Luthor's like going, "Oh, you sweet summer child, you don't understand how anything works." And Lex Luthor explained how everything worked and how Superman was going to have to work with him to solve this problem, which he would be glad to do. And then Superman, in response, replaced Lex's window with, "Thank you for giving me that good lesson, Lex. See you next time." This is a scene where Lex isn't acting smart. Superman's acting emotional, which is fine, but you could have had Lex act smart. Lex could have done something smart or intelligent in this scene, and it would have improved the whole package. This scene needed another draft or two. It needed better connecting tissue.
Why didn't Batman just break into Lex Luthor's house after he went to sleep?
Look, Batman's not been introduced into this universe yet, Church. You know that. We had a reboot, and they haven't brought Batman back yet because they're using Batman to sell the first year of annuals. You know that's how that's going to work.
I haven't watched the movie yet, and Lucifer is playing in my living room, so I'm on my mobile.
Okay. So Superman then decides he has to turn himself into the government so he can get his dog back. And he has a good romantic scene with Lois, which is ruined by the giant floating eyeball monster in the background. It's really fucking distracting and dumb and unnecessary. This movie could use some Riddling.
What about some Riddler?
We're moving along here.
We also can't have Riddler because that character's been. Damn headset. That character's been burned for like the next 5 years.
So Superman turns himself in. He's like, "Oh, hey, what about my rights?" And one of the guys says like, "Oh, you're a criminal alien, blah blah blah, whatever." And they throw.
And then we have a scene like Superman, like in Hancock, where they put Superman in jail, and he just kind of walks out through the wall.
No, it's both better and dumber. So Lex Luthor teleports him through what is a perfect setup for the Justice League teleporter system, and I don't have a problem with that. But what I have a problem with is Lex like going, "Yeah, this is my pocket universe I made," and I'm like, bro, you got a pocket universe. Why do you have incriminating evidence on Earth? Why do you have any incriminating evidence on Earth?
Well, we haven't found out. He didn't actually make it. He stole it from Brainiac. That's in the next movie.
That's actually a popular fan theory.
Really?
But, yeah.
I just pulled that out of my ass.
No, but the people are already using that to justify this movie. And Lex shows off various things in his pocket universe, Guantanamo. And I hate it because they did it in Civil War. And once again, Civil War is ruining comics and comics-related media. And they have Crypto chasing Kryptonian squirrels. They have him trapped in a virtual reality squirrel chasing loop. There are monkeys.
Also, oh wait, is that how they manage to maintain Crypto? Is they stick them in pocket universes like the Phantom Zone?
No, that's how they are taking care of Superman, and they can also should have tightened the Phantom Zone, but we're not there yet, Church. We're not there yet. So also, there's an army of monkeys posting to Twitter in the pocket universe. They're genetically engineered monkey ship posting machines.
And people are so busy talking about this, they miss the actual obvious problem in this scene.
Well, I mean, there's multiple.
Well, the obvious problem is they took your intellectual property to your appearance room.
Fuck you.
If it was
no.
if it was an army of shitposting monkeys, they just stole that directly from you as a human.
No, the actual problem is they use this to introduce Metamorpho and Metamorpho's son with no buildup. Now, I can understand people understand who Green Lantern is, and there might be more than one. I can understand that people might not know Mr. Terrific, and that's a new experience. And I would be hard pressed to imagine anyone doesn't know Hawkgirl, right? But
I mean,
everybody hates the Hawk.
But you don't really
everybody hates the Hawk family, but there was the CBS show that had Hawkgirl in it. So
right, but Metamorpho is a deep dive. Outside of maybe 2 episodes of Justice League, nobody knows who the fuck that is.
Right,
Okay?
he was more of a he's more of a Vertigo man than a DC contingent.
Right.
Although,
and it's like that's a character that needs introduction. You need to build up to that shit, or at least have Superman remark on him before he gets curb stomped, so that we know that they know each other.
And Lex has Metamorpho make kryptonite, which I didn't hate that idea, but then why was Metamorpho in the same cell as Superman? Because kryptonite's radioactive. He could have just been in an adjacent cell, and then Superman could have talked him down.
More importantly, let's talk about the immediate subsequent problem of later when Superman is escaping. he has Metamorpho make a miniature sun.
Yeah.
If you can make a miniature sun, I don't care what the fuck what threat Lex Luthor has on your kid. He cannot make a prison to hold you.
Exactly. Now, maybe Metamorpho wasn't properly motivated, which is kind of weird if your wife and kid are in prison. I don't know.
In the next cell over.
Yes. I mean, it's kind of a weird thought process, but
How far into the movie are we here at this point?
We're a little over the halfway point.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Like 2/3. This is like the lull before the climax, kind of.
Yeah. And while all of this is happening, Lois
That's
goes.
basically the definition of this whole show.
Yeah. While all this is happening, Lois goes.
The lull before the climax.
Yes.
So while all of this is happening, Lois goes to the Justice Gang and is like, "Hey, he's your friend, and he's being held in a prison." And Guy Gardner's like, "Bro, I swore an oath to the Guardians, and I really can't interfere." And they're like, "Guy, you say that whenever there's anything you don't want to do." I said, "Well, that's." I like that in Mr. Terrific.
I thought that was good.
Yeah, no, I thought it was good. That was one of the good moments.
That would have been a perfect moment for Batman to punch him in the face.
But there's no Batman Church. We already talked about that.
Shut up, Larry. God damn it, that's not what I asked.
Church, I thought you'd given up drinking.
I have. This is me on pure oxygen. You're fucked.
So are you saying that you have Batman tremens? You see Batman everywhere?
No, but Batman would be perfect in most situations, so yes.
But Mr. Terrific.
Should we mention that? Should we mention that Lex and the Eastern European dictator dude were trying to start a secret war?
No,
Oh, yeah.
Public war. It was a public war, and Lex Luthor was just going to get half of a Muslim country for some reason. And
Somebody trying to keep a secret? I feel like Lex was trying to keep a secret while a public war was going on.
We'll get into that a little bit more. So Mr. Terrific agrees to break into a secure government holding cell, which is mostly Lex Luthor's ex-girlfriends. I mean, if I had my own Gitmo and I was a powerful billionaire, sure, I just throw my ex-girlfriends in there. That makes total sense.
King Lex the Eighth. None of them gave him sons.
And so he agrees to break Superman out mainly because it would piss off Guy Gardner, which I like that. I like that character motivation. That was good. And then he goes in, beats up all of Lex's super soldiers, which really, that's the real reason why the government wasn't buying Lex's super soldiers. Because they couldn't fight one superhero. And Mr. Terrific's not really even as powerful as Superman. So they're really not good for what he has advertised. Mr. Terrific hacks into the interdimensional portal system. Meanwhile, around the same time, Superman goes to Metamorpho and's like, "Bro, help me break out of this prison. I'll save your kid and your wife," and blah, blah, blah. They get Crypto out, and they explode out of a black hole somehow. Because the
me after drinking a bottle of whiskey and eating Nacho Bel Grande.
And then Mr. Terrific recovers him, tells Lois, "Hey, he just has poisoning from radiation. He needs some time to chill out and get better." So they take him home to Kansas, where he sees Ma and Pa Kent. Ma and Pa Kent were the only casting in this movie I hated. I actively hated because they look like country bumpkins, not decent, God-fearing Midwesterners.
Okay.
Have you ever been to Kansas, though?
Well, I was going to say, Larry, have you been to the Midwest recently?
I have.
Because the only people that look like that now are technically Midwestern country bumpkins.
No, like they look like people straight out of Arkansas.
Fuck you, Larry.
Yeah, they've been.
I mean, they look like Mike Huckabee before he decided to lose weight.
Fuck you, Larry. I'm just being attacked blatantly on the show.
And then
Bro, you all got a festival around toads, and it's not even like a psychedelic festival. All right.
Look,
I mean, it is for some of us.
Let's sit back from specific accusations and just agree that the casting is not great, and that even in the Snyderverse, even though they had Kevin Costner, it does not seem as though Hollywood knows how to cast the Kents, as though they are somehow a mythical creature now.
Can I say something without getting attacked?
Sure.
No.
I thought John Schneider and whatever her name was, who played them in Smallville, were actually really good casting.
Yes, but Smallville was kind of terrible in places.
It was, but John Schneider did an amazing job as.
Yeah.
I want Tom Welling and Dean Cain to fist fight in public.
but I will say I agree with Ben Shapiro's complaint about the Kents in this movie. They say, like, his dad says, like, parents supposed to give you the tools on how to think. And I'm like, yeah, but your parents also supposed to say, hey, you can't bang all these chicks without a condom. That's kind of fucked up, yo. You should maybe like put a rubber on it.
You're not my real dad.
That's the thing. That's the thing, is that what they actually needed to say is what they didn't say. Okay? Because the Kents would have supported Kal-El no matter what, because he's their son, he's Clark. Right?
Uh-huh.
And they would have said, it's like, look, we might not be the people that birthed you, but we're the people that raised you, and we'll always love you. And that's all they need to fucking say. Right?
We'll finish getting through the movie because I have thoughts and I want to express them.
Well,
Don't you lie.
We're getting there. We're getting there. So Lex.
Fuck you, Rune.
So Lex decides to, after Superman escaped, unveil his latest cunning plan to defeat Superman, which is
does it involve a turnip?
Which is, I'm going to tell my Russian lackey to go massacre some brown people again, and I'm going to activate a dimensional portal to destroy Metropolis.
So he basically did the Green Goblin thing with the train full of people and Mary Jane.
But it's a whole city and a third world country full of brown people.
Yeah, but it's the same exact like moral quandary metaphor. Like
but the movie,
it's the railroad track metaphor. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Is it basically the time when the Joker took Harvey Dent and Batman's girlfriend, Rachel?
Yes.
Kinda.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but this movie wants to tell you some good things about the sequence. Somehow they got a city of 10 million people evacuated before Lex Luthor's dimensional rip was about to destroy the city.
Well, here's an actual more key problem. You were talking earlier about things that don't make sense in this movie. All right? And we had a very vigorous debate about Lex Luthor's evidence and not faking. But let's talk about a real one here. So Lex Luthor's like, unzip the reality hole, right? And it's literally doing that with Minecraft graphics. It's unzipping and everything's gonna get destroyed, right? But the entire time it's like, oh well, we have a computer counter, we have a thing. We'll just tell the computer and it'll fix this. How? It's a cosmic reaction. It's physical.
Well, what Lex is gonna do. What Lex is going to do is he's going to go get some obsidian pieces and a torch, and he's just going to open a portal to the Nether in the dimensional rift so that Jack Black and Jason Momoa can come through because they're obviously DC characters now.
Well, no.
And they can fix everything.
Hold up. Church, Jason Momoa is going to be in the Supergirl movie if that ever comes out.
Right. But here's what I'm getting at. Okay? I can believe that they have systems in place where we do this thing, and then this horrible thing will happen, and it's going to be an out-of-control reaction.
Reverse the polarity.
Yeah.
To what end? the other end of the machine that you're giving this command in is fucked because they fucked it. It's broken. You broke it in the earlier part of the movie. You destroyed it when Superman escaped.
Is this like what happened when Loki summoned the Chitauri?
No, because that makes sense.
Okay.
What I'm getting at is that Lex Luthor's
No, this is like
destroy...
it's like a portal to a pocket dimension.
It's a portal to a pocket dimension out of control that is growing in size quadratically around a black hole. This was not just a I'm going to destroy Metropolis problem. This is now out of control and is going to destroy the world problem. And the reason
what happened is James Gunn
technically.
No, James Gunn was hitting the blunt and he said, it would be cool if we put a pocket dimension like overlap into the movie to kind of give a nod towards what's eventually going to take place in Crisis.
The reason I bring it up as a problem, okay, is because first of all, movies and television have never been good with clocks, okay, running clock threads, all right. But the fact
or bullet counts.
The fact of the matter is that this problem, this expanding bubble of destruction, which might I add is going in two directions. It's a zipper, not a one-way arrow. Okay, so it's both eating the ocean and moving towards Metropolis and going who the fuck knows where else deeper into the ocean. Okay.
Wait, did it get Batman? Is that why he's not in the movie?
Maybe.
Yes.
But the thing is that its relative threat and how much destruction is or is not going to happen is entirely subjective to Superman's availability while he's having a fist fight. Okay. And the second that he is out of the fist fight, and this is still happening, this destruction is still going on, right?
Who the fuck is Superman fist fighting with? Who's strong enough to fist fight with?
Ultraman, who's a clone of Superman in this setting.
Oh.
But the thing is that many minutes pass once that is done, right? While trying to find where Lex Luthor is hiding, that this thing already consumed the city. It already destroyed a fuck ton of shit. Okay, this is either the slowest threat on Earth or was never a threat to begin with because somebody should have found a solution to fix it before this or it wasn't fixable.
Well, hold up. We're not here unpacking everything. So Superman...
I'm just saying, think about how much time they take for Superman and Lex Luthor to have a very angry heart-to-heart talk while the city is still being destroyed.
Well, hold up. We haven't even gotten to there having a heart-to-heart talk yet. We haven't even got there.
I know, but I'm just saying, if you think about how much time is wasted in those scenes, in those secondary and ancillary scenes, the city was gone. They had already lost before they won.
Yeah. The whole final act nonsense was just a bunch of chaotic drivel. So Superman does various Superman things like lifting a whole-ass building so it doesn't crush a car. Like a whole ass building. Then he and Mr. Terrific fight the engineer and Ultraman. And Church, you're gonna love this. Ultraman isn't really a clone with a good brain. He's a clone with a bad brain. So Lex Luthor has to give commands by saying a letter and a number. Those represent like fight moves.
Right, because his room of computer people operating this, they don't show it, but basically it's a bunch of esports guys, and they're just fight gaming Superman.
Yeah, that's weird, but not weird in a good way. It's weird in a bad way.
Yeah, I thought that was I didn't quite understand that because then Lex has to somehow be able to shout a letter and number fast enough to the clone for it to be transmitted for the clone to react in time to Superman, who moves at super speed.
So it would be cooler also, infinitely, if it was moves like in a coordination with the chessboard that he was shouting, like he was controlling him like a piece of it on a chessboard.
I get that.
I mean, that could have been better. Now, while all of this is happening in Brownistan, The military marches in and is attacking the poor people who are holding up a yellow flag, praying for Superman to help them. Spoiler, Superman doesn't help them. The Justice Gang shows up. And Guy Gardner defeats the army, and Hawkgirl kills the Russian Israeli whatever dictator who looks like a porn star.
Villain Guyevich.
Which I think this is a good time. I want to talk about visually what they did with Guy Gardner specifically. I thought was fantastic the way they had him use the ring, like even in the scene with the giant eye, with the giant eyeball. Yeah, with the giant eyeball, even though it was distracted, like he's just whacking it with a big ass baseball bat. He's like, I don't know. I thought that was good. That was a good nod, even though it was distracting from a heartfelt scene. He's just walking through and just having middle fingers shoot out of the sand, flipping over tanks. Like, I thought they did a really good job with that.
Yeah. So eventually Superman beats the bad guys, murders them. He murders his clone, which is both worse and also better than the scene in Man of Steel. Albeit in the case of Man of Steel, he murdered Zod because Zod was going to kill some people. He did what he had to do. In this scene, I didn't really feel like Superman had to kill Ultraman. Although he killed him in a comic book way, which allows him to come back later as Bizarro.
Yeah, he kicked him into a black hole, which admittedly should crush him, but whatever.
Whatever, it's comic books.
Which might I add, by the way, is a opportunity that they missed out again on, right? You want to show that Superman is a fundamentally good person. You want to show how awesome he is. You have the fight. You have Ultraman and Superman fight it out. You have Ultraman going into the black hole. You show Superman trying to save his clone.
Yeah.
You can have him fail still, but you have him try to be like, no, nobody dies today.
Yeah.
Because that's what Superman does.
Superman confronts Lex Luthor. He whistles for Krypto, and Krypto hates technology. So in an angry doggo way, he beats the shit out of things in Lex Luthor's office.
We should also talk. They did build that up.
No, they set that up.
Yeah, when Mr. Terrific was trying to save him, Krypto kept attacking the T-spheres, thinking they were balls.
I mean, he's a dog.
Yeah, I thought it was good. They were flying balls, and he's a flying dog. Of course, he's going to chase them.
Yeah, it all makes sense. It all makes sense. And then he and Lois have another heartfelt moment, and then he goes back to heal at the Fortress of Solitude. They show him his fat, inbred Kansas family instead of his Kryptonian family, and then we meet Supergirl, who came back after being on a bender. Turns out Krypto was actually her dog, which creates
As an aside, I don't think people are being very fair here. I actually do not have a problem with the idea that Kara, who is a teenager, likes to go party sometimes and will go to planets where she can party. That's fine.
I'm stating that mainly because that's what happened in the scene. Although we create a dog pill situation now, which is both better and worse than the horse pill situation from the comics. None of y'all you're all gonna leave me hanging bringing up Comet the Superboy.
I think the horse should be part of this. I also want Wonder Woman to have her pig. The pig is important. Guy Gardner would absolutely have a squirrel.
And that's the movie. The movie was just an anarchic mess of a narrative. The movie underwrote all of the characters, but luckily the actors who were playing the characters all did a really good job. Of the main characters, the only one who was done a disservice by the movie was Lex Luthor. The actor did everything he could with what the script gave him, but the script gave him the least. He was just, evil bad guy doing evil bad guy things for evil bad guy reasons.
I want to fix that and say Lex, he was a badly written good character.
Yes,
I think is a better descriptor of that.
Well, no, none of these characters were well written. I think the actors
saved
all the characters.
No, I think Crypto and Guy were done well. They were the best two.
I mean, I think Crypto did what he could with what he had, but there's only so much a dog can do. And again, we weren't given a lot of good Guy Gardner material
Tell
because there was just too much.
tell that to Airbud Larry.
But the big problem I have with this movie is there's too much, and none of it means a goddamn thing. Like the whole thing with his parents, like, oh, the people say, oh yeah, turns out Superman was actually a good guy and wasn't wanting to have giant rape harems to foster a new, elite race of half human, half Kryptonian hybrids.
Oh, so Omni-Man is in this universe.
Well, no, literally they ripped off Invincible for a plot point in this movie, and then they just said, oh yeah, the people on Earth realize Superman's not actually evil. That's just a thing that happens in the movie. So there are ideas that you could make a whole movie out of, but they just mashed them all into this movie. James Gunn can't focus on Superman, and his Superman and Lois have very interesting things. And if we had a Lois, Clark, Lex Luthor triad sort of movie with the normal Daily Planet supporting cast around them without any of the extraneous bullshit, I think this movie would have been 100% better.
That is the actual ultimate issue of this film. Okay, and the reason I say that it's bad, we've touched on it several times. It's overstuffed nature. It's frenetic energy that is really jangling keys. If this had been a character study and had boiled down to just Superman and his immediate ensemble cast, and when I say immediate ensemble cast, what we're talking about is Superman, Lois, Jimmy, and Lex Luthor. Perry White, right? And I'm not even saying Superman taking on mobsters. I'm just saying Superman fighting a conventional villain rather than some lore-shaping, universe-building mega villain or something. It would have been a solid film.
Yeah, or if this was what it was trying to be tonally, like a year 1 or 2 or 3 Superman thing where Lex Luthor stands up and says, here's why I hate you, alien. And, unpacks the whole thing.
Right.
So I'm going to give Ayrton some time to give his normie tier take on this whole thing.
Hey.
I mean, you're the one who's going to have the most normie take on this. You know that to be true.
You still have to call a brother out like that.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that he likes you telling him it.
Come on. No. Overall, I didn't hate it. Like, I'm not like, it's not like Ironheart where I'm like, why the fuck am I watching this? Like, I wasn't, just sitting there messaging and complaining about dumbass shit the whole time to you guys while I was watching it. Like, I enjoyed it. I had fun.
You weren't longing for death.
Yeah. Is it a good movie? Not really. I'd put it kind of in that same realm as like that early mid 2000s like Marvel before they really took off. Like, it's kind of awkward. They're trying to be comics accurate but trying to be modern, and there's awkward stuff that isn't working. But I had fun watching it for the most part. Visually, I think they did a fantastic job. The cinematographers and stuff, you could tell like we're really trying to nail down that comic book look, and I like that. I'm sick of all like barely being able to see what's happening on screen with all these other movies recently, and I mean, Superman the animated series and Justice League back when I was a kid still has been the best Superman portrayal, I'm going to say, but it was all right. If you're bored and can catch a matinee for like $12, go for it.
All right, Rune, did Rune vent his spleen?
I mean, yes, but specifically, as I said, I think the real thing that this film gets in the neck that is unfair, right, is not that it is meh because it is bad. Okay, although it does not use all of its tools well, that can't be denied. But the fact of the matter is that it is actually exactly what it says on the tin. It's a Superman movie. It's a Superman movie that actually treads on and utilizes a lot of DC elements. We need to be honest with ourselves that DC's output has never been the greatest on Earth, right? I have a Superman book. I have a Silver Age Superman book in my collection somewhere, right? Where Superman is on an alien world, okay? And everything is wrong and something is weird. And Superman ends up fighting Superman only to discover that it's not really him. It's another entity that is pretending to be Superman, right? And it is defeated and returned into energy only to discover that the planet is inhabited by energy creatures, right? And it's like, oh, I was the bad guy the whole time. So while Superman flies off, these energy creatures now must learn to live better lives, right? And at no time does it talk about why is Superman here? Why does this matter? What is really going on? What is the emotional context? It is, what if Superman went to an alien world and ended up fighting a fake Superman? They're very simple stories. The problem when we talk about this being overstuffed is that they took several simple stories, any one of which would have worked individually, and smashed them all together. Right?
Like one of the concepts is
now,
what if
and now
early,
Kiss.
yeah, but like what if early in his career Superman meets a superhero team who thinks he's naive and idealistic.
Right.
You could have made a whole movie out of that, but instead that was a couple of scenes in one movie.
The reason I mention this is to use a good example. Everybody is supposedly talking about how this whole thing with these two nations that Lex Luthor wants to do a villainous land grab on are...
Well, no, he didn't want to do a villainous land grab. Remember, he created that war to trick Superman.
Right, but the thing is that we all know that it's an actual Lex Luthor plot to do a villainous land grab. He would. If that had been his only goal, that would have been fine. The fact that they made it also humiliate Superman and galactic interdimensional prison and those things undermine the sauce, as we've said. But the thing is that people are jumping to the gun to say, oh, well, it's Ukraine. Oh, it's Palestine. I'm sorry. Have you read a DC book? They love to make their non-specific, non-identified, vaguely Middle Eastern, vaguely Eastern Bloc, vaguely Russian, vaguely Asian, non-existent nations all the fucking time. Okay?
Also, have you never heard of any war in human history?
No, that's not relevant. Like, what I'm getting at is like Bane comes from a South American banana nation that doesn't exist. Okay,
That
it might as well
also,
be Valverde.
No, it's Tropico. He comes from the nation for the video game
Tropico, right? You actually look at DC's United States. Coast City isn't real. Gotham City is not New York, and it's not New Jersey either. Metropolis is not Chicago.
But they do drop the Delaware reference from Metropolis, which I appreciated.
Sure, but what I'm getting at is that DC has never tried for real reality. It has always been, at best, a hyper reality.
Yeah. But the entertainment media was making things seem like this was meant to be a topical reference on Israel and Palestine or Russia and Ukraine.
And then what that does is that obscures the fact that if you want to accuse this of being a subpar product, judge it for the things that are subpar. If you want to say, is this a Superman film? It's like, yeah, it's a good enough Superman film. It's not a good Superman film. A lot of people say, well, this is like a big TV episode. Well, guess what? If it's a big TV episode, it's an average episode of a Superman show. It's an average Justice League episode. It's an average Lois and Clark episode. It's an average Smallville episode with a budget. There you go.
I'd say it's a C- episode. It's a low average.
Oh, it doesn't. I'm not saying it's a good episode.
All right. I have thoughts.
Okay.
And after I give my thoughts, I'm probably going to retire. I'm exhausted.
Okay.
But we'll see. We'll see how fired up I get. But
Get that
after
second
having
wave
heard
charge.
you, after having heard you all out, I think we're bitching about the wrong thing.
Well, wait. You haven't even heard my closing argument yet.
I've had no argument in this because I didn't see it. I heard your synopsis, which means I think I know what your closing argument is. But I think we're all bitching about the wrong thing. I think that DC and Warner Studios is doing the wrong thing. The MCU was successful when it was following a through line.
Mhm.
Marvel is very, very good at having through lines. And
DC
the
Comics
story,
is.
I know. Marvel is very good at having through lines, and the stories those through lines go through make for good cinematic television. DC should not be trying to emulate Marvel. They should take what they do best, which is Elseworlds and condensed individual stories and things that don't necessarily link together. So you don't have to have the same actor play somebody for 20 years and you get to watch Batman become the old Batman from Batman Beyond. You don't want that for DC. What you want is you want to have a movie of The Killing Joke. You want that to be a movie. And it's just a Batman movie. Everybody knows Batman's fucking origin story at this point.
Mhm.
Okay? You're not going to get an audience for Batman that doesn't know Batman's origin story. Every father will make sure that someone watches the fucking the Mask of the Phantasm with their kid before they go to a Batman movie in theater.
So
We don't need to see. We don't hold on. We
Okay.
don't need to see Batman's family dying anymore. So we can just have a movie come out as a summer blockbuster that's The Killing Joke, and then
I've
we
seen
can have a
Thomas and
mini
Martha
series.
die like 8 or 9 times.
We can have a mini series on HBO Max or whatever the fuck WB is partnered with, and we can have a mini series that's just Kingdom Come.
So
And then the next year we can have another mini series that's Cataclysm or The Death of Superman. And we can have a movie that's, the first part of Injustice. We should have those snapshot moments. The fucking breaking of the bat, Superboy, that whole Superboy era where they introduced the clone, that would have been a better story to tell.
so Church, there's a funny problem here, and it's not because you're wrong. They tried to do that, and they fucked it up.
Well, they tried to do that, and that became a bad business practice because investors didn't want to do that.
Well, they tried to do that in conjunction with ongoing television shows. That's not what I'm talking about.
No. They were planning to do that with the movies.
No, what they did with the movies is they said instead of having a cinematic universe that is a cohesive whole, that is a continuing through line, we're going to have different movies with different directors, and each film is going to have.
Oh no, I know that. But what I'm saying is the investors said no, but they haven't been pitched it correctly.
Right.
Nobody's pointed out that just because Marvel got away with it, we can look at these other models. Look at Disney Plus and The Mandalorian.
Right.
Well,
look at Marvel doing She-Hulk. I know that's a bad example, but Marvel doing She-Hulk or Marvel doing Daredevil on Netflix. You could, Ayrton, and you'll love this. You can have a fucking mini series called Golden Age, and it's the story of how the Golden Age Justice League got together in their fight with fucking Starro.
Hell yeah, dude! I would watch the fuck out of that.
Right?
Now, what's interesting here is, Church, you didn't actually guess what my closing argument was going to be.
I didn't guess at all. No, I just think I know what it might be.
So, first things first, I think James Gunn, as a producer, made very good decisions in this movie. He made very good decisions in who got cast. He made very good decisions in the aesthetics. I think pulling in shit like the Superman robots, that was exactly what the movie needed to do from a I'm the guy running the studio standpoint. As a director, I think, again, excellent casting. The scenes that were shot well. They, minus some of the crap in the background, they did what they needed to do. James Gunn, the writer, failed this movie. James Gunn wasn't a writer, and almost never is a writer, executive producer, director, trifecta good. It's almost never happened. One of the most famous examples of it being not good was the prequels from Star Wars, where George was the whole shop.
Yeah.
You need balance, you need some other people. James Gunn needed somebody else to write this story in a way that James Gunn could have directed it.
That approach has only worked once, and it's worth pointing out that it did not work that once in its own time.
Yes.
Because at the time that Citizen Kane came out, it was panned massively.
Yes. Only in hindsight does that end up working. It's never good in the world working.
Right.
I think that there's too much put into this movie's script because James Gunn needed it to be a James Gunn movie. And that's why there was an ensemble cast of lovable weirdos and misfits. And while those characters all worked well, I don't think they worked well in the story that needed to be there.
Well, here's
But
the
see,
thing.
and here's where my idea kind of fits in. Instead of having James Gunn do this movie, you have him do the movie with all the freaks and weirdos in the DC universe.
He did that. It's called Creature Commandos. It's a TV show. We reviewed it for the show, and it wasn't very good.
Oh, James Gunn did that?
Yeah.
Oh, and it didn't work.
It didn't work, but it was like
maybe if he wrote, directed, and was the producer on it, it would have been good.
No, he did all of that on the animated series Creature Commando. It didn't work.
I don't think you guys realize how much I was drinking.
We do, Church. We've known you for a long time. We know how much you were drinking.
I don't think you do. I think it would still stagger the imagination.
I think this movie is going to do better than it deserves. Because people are like going, it's got bright colors. It's not grim and depressing like the last time.
Because it's not the biggest bowl of shit that DC's ever put out, so it will be a success on the lowest bar that is set.
Yes, and the overwhelming word of mouth is going to be the actor who did Superman did pretty good. It's not like Henry Cavill, but it's a good, different take on Superman.
I actually liked him better than Henry Cavill. I did not like Cavill as Superman.
Yeah, but that's because Cavill didn't have anything to work with.
Oh, just saying.
While this actor didn't have anything to work with, he was able to do more with what he was given.
What you're outlining, Larry, is the thing that I have said repeatedly, which is that if you drive the bar low enough, you don't even have to get to the actual level of the previous bar. You just have to give a minor nod that maybe we fucked up for people to just lovingly accept it.
Yes,
and it's terrible.
And people are like going,
man,
Marvel shit the bed, but maybe DC will be good. So I think this movie is going to be successful, and Warner is going to learn all the wrong lessons.
Yeah, no, I think you're probably accurate on that, because while Ayrton painted a pretty good picture of them doing a little bit of justice to the Green Lantern power set, I saw that fucking costume. And it makes me mad to think that I'm going to have to watch this movie and see it again.
Well, here's the fun part. Their next project that's going to come out is a streaming series about Hal Jordan training Jon Stewart. So
we had a movie without Hal Jordan as Green Lantern and Guy Gardner instead. And now we're going to get a show where Hal Jordan is giving up his turf to Jon Stewart. Why
No,
are they
he did-
shitting all over my boy Hal?
No, Hal's just going to train John.
Yeah, but in the
This-
storyline, Hal's training John to be his replacement.
I don't know how Tom King's going to do this because it's a Tom King joint.
Oh well, they're gonna have sex with their mothers.
Obviously,
They're shitting on Hal because everybody wants a Hal Jordan movie, but nobody liked the Ryan Reynolds movie. And the fact of the matter is that it's a combination because Parallax is a shit villain, and because
Parallax is not a shit villain. You just have no imagination.
Sir, I saw that movie. Parallax is a shit villain.
Parallax was a shit villain in that incarnation. Parallax as an entity, as an idea, is not bad.
And you don't use that. You don't blow your load on your introduction movie saying, "Here's Parallax." Fuck you.
I don't know. I actually think if I was going to try and write a Superman movie, and I had to incorporate.
Well, if you're writing a Superman movie for a Green Lantern movie, you've done it wrong.
No, I'm not talking about a Green Lantern movie. I was segueing to another point.
Okay.
If I had to write a Superman movie like the one that you just saw, and I had to include the elements of Superman being an illegal alien, I would pivot back to my original idea of jumping around in canon and storyline. And my movie would probably be a 2.5 hour long Death of Superman movie.
Well, hold up, King.
No.
Hold up,
King.
King.
Oh yeah.
Hold up, King.
Oh,
You've
yeah.
opened the door to my magic trap card for this episode. I did a deep dive, and I came to realize something.
You have an Uno Reverso on this? Okay, cool.
I have an Uno reverse on this.
I'm going to counterspell the shit out of your trap card.
Hey, I have a Blue Eyes White Dragon card, so y'all are both fucked.
Oh shit.
So in the comic books, Superman was actually a legal native-born American citizen for almost half the run of the character.
Yeah.
Do you know what the common trait of the writers who wrote that origin story was?
They were all Jewish.
I don't think John Byrne is Jewish. I'd have to look that up. But they were all immigrants. Do you know what the common trait of all the comic book writers who made Superman an illegal alien or an immigrant was? With one exception,
they were all nationals.
they were all American nationals, with one exception being Grant Morrison. And I'm assuming
Grant Morrison's a fucking alien himself.
Exactly. Now,
Grant Morrison's the same race as Dennis Rodman.
Now, in the television and movie sphere, all the people who've wrote and talked about the Superman origin story have chosen to make him an immigrant alien allegory. Do you know what trait they all have in common, except for the creative team behind Smallville?
They're all ethnic.
No, they're all U.S. nationals, all native-born U.S. nationals. The team behind Smallville were British. I didn't know that. That's weird to me. But do you know when, in the broader canon of Superman, Superman being an immigrant allegory actually became important?
No.
The Superman radio show was the first one to really build that into the Superman canon. And this occurred during the time where we had war migrants, where we had war refugees, where there was rising anti-Semitism in the follow-up to World War II and in the run-up to World War II. So,
rise in anti-Semitism.
Yeah, rise of anti-Semitism. So Superman being an immigrant allegory didn't occur until like 20 years later for the character. And it only came into the comics because
because Superman was punching yellow people back then. We can't.
But it only came into the comics because in the Silver Age, the radio show was the most culturally relevant thing to everybody. Now, in the 1980s, John Byrne made his decision, number one, because he wanted to tell the story of how immigrants have been accepted and integrated into the United States, because it's the 80s. And also, he wanted Superman to be able to run for president, which they set up in one of the terrible DC events with Wave Rider. I don't remember the name of that event.
Was it One More Day?
It was not
No.
with that.
Oh, okay.
But
So much stupid happened in that. I thought maybe that was connected to it.
Well, funnily enough, the Flash actually crossed over during one of his. No, the Flash actually crossed over from Crisis on Infinite Earths into Marvel Comics.
Well, see, what happened there, Larry, is we actually entered a crossover event that not many people are aware of, called the Secret Crisis of Infinite Wars.
Oh no, church. The Flash ran into Marvel Comics before that happened. Hell,
No, but him doing it made it happen.
I mean, maybe that's certainly possible. But what do you guys think about the fact that immigrants wrote Superman as a native-born American, but Americans kept writing Superman as an immigrant?
I mean, it makes sense.
Well, it also, you look at the time period and when that happened and the point and the audience that they were trying to appease with those stories.
What do you think?
I think what's pertinent here is that the authors wanted to view Superman as an aspirational figure, right? So for people who are from here, Superman is the ultimate foreigner, and he's the ultimate good foreigner coming to save our day, save everybody.
Hey, if all these Mexicans were like Superman, we wouldn't have these issues.
Hey, all those Mexicans are Goku. Don't you pay attention?
I'm going to say this, and I don't know if it's a hot take or an unpopular opinion, but Superman's abilities and Superman's morality and his character make it inconsequential to his status as a native or not. Again, if you put him in jail or try to deport him, he's going to walk through the wall and escape.
Church, don't lose the beat. You're right, but don't mess it up. Stop. Yes, it is inconsequential whether Superman is a native or not. What I'm saying is that for the authors, if you're American born, it's an interesting and gripping story for Superman to be an immigrant. If you're an immigrant, something you already know about, no, Superman is the idealized American you want to be.
Yes.
Right?
Rune is 100% on point.
Yeah. No, you're not.
Except for Grant Morrison, who is high all the time.
You are 100% correct, Church. No force on Earth could hold Superman.
It's not even that. I'm saying the fact that he's Superman, the fact that he is an actual extraterrestrial supersedes his legal status. Nobody's going to assume that he's a legal alien, a normal human being, because normal fucking human beings don't do that. And at this point in time in DC Comics, we've seen fucking aliens already. So we know he's just another fucking alien.
All right, you know we're always talking about things that we would put into a comic if we could. Because I think it would be a classy joke.
Holy shit, you're Kryptonian?
No, I want to propose that if I was writing a Superman comic,
like Jaytonian,
I would have Clark Kent in the office having a bit of a chuckle, and Lois or Jimmy ask him, "What are you up to?" He's like, "Oh, I'm just reading the paper." Because he's reading the paper, right? He's a paperman. He reads papers, and he's reading the comic strips, right? Because Superman's favorite comic character is Speedy Gonzales. That is the closest I would get to an immigrant joke about Superman.
I mean, it should be Slowpoke Rodriguez because he's clearly the better of the two Mexican mice.
That's true.
You think that, but Slowpoke Rodriguez has a gun, and Superman doesn't believe in shooting people.
But no, I shudder to think of any good Superman story that I've ever read that his nationality status would matter. So I can't ever see that adding to a Superman story as a through line.
So Superman is an allegory for America from the context of its initial creation. So by making
sure.
Superman not
But
an
I'm
American,
talking. Well, I'm talking about a modern audience. I'm talking about the way people are going to write things. It still doesn't make sense to use that with that character. There are other better options.
I mean, Superman's the better Captain America than Captain America.
I'm not saying I'm saying the immigration issue that they highlighted in this movie. Apparently,
No, they didn't.
I
They
No, they
did.
didn't.
oh
That
okay.
was something. That was something the Hollywood reporters were creating to be trash.
Yeah, they literally made up the fact that there was a controversy about there being an immigration message in the Superman movie.
Oh okay.
Yeah.
They literally made it up. So they play this clip where they're asking Nathan Fillion about it, and they always cut it off when he starts laughing.
He says,
But if you
just a
watch,
movie, guys.
yeah, if you watches the whole clip, he goes like, "It's just a movie, guys," and that kind of sums it up. Like it is,
Yeah.
like this movie literally is just a movie.
Yeah. So,
Oh yeah. Well then I
So-
think it probably is a lot better than you're saying it is, just because we're at least getting back to that. Now we just have to get some skill back in these positions,
Yeah.
and we might actually get good movies again.
Well, and this is actually one thing I kind of disagree with Larry about. He might be right, but I think there could be an alternate outcome to this movie being successful, because I agree that it is going to be unintentionally more successful than they were expecting.
movie studios always learn the wrong lessons from successful movies.
But there's a chance that with the success of this, they kind of like lock in, and maybe we get some like other. God damn, that was loud.
Yeah.
What?
Thanks. That so helped my tinnitus, Church. Your screen door.
Oh, okay.
But I think there's a chance that with this being successful, that more of a budget might be allocated from Warner Brothers to the studio, and the quality of movies might could be.
Now, Ayrton, I wish you were right. However, Twilight was so successful, a series of movie studios said, what if we made a Twilight but for boys?
All right, I need to also twist this knife. I'm sorry, Ayrton. I really wish I could have your idealism, but in matter of point, yes, they will be successful enough that they'll put more money into future films of this type. But they're not going to put that money into writing, directing, or production. They're going to put it into one thing: special effects, because that's where they always put the money. Is more visual spectacle. It'll look pretty and be shit.
And there's lots and lots of visual special effects that were kind of dumb in this movie.
Yeah, I don't know. All I'm saying is there's a chance that we could get some decent movies in the next couple of years out of this being successful. That was my point. I didn't say it's going to be like amazing or great or anything like that, but I think we could get some decent movies out of the next couple of years.
So, does anybody, before my phone dies and I suddenly drop out, which pending, does anybody want to have Rick Piper on next Sunday to talk about the Canadian Shield 3?
Yes. Are we having a modified discussion about Rick's personal situation?
What is the personal situation?
Church wasn't here last week. We should probably wait till we'll tell him about it later.
We'll stop the stream early so we can tell you after class. So
Okay.
Good night, everybody.